My girlfriend said, "My ex will always be part of my life. Deal with it." I said, "I'm dealing with it by packing my stuff and leaving." When she called crying that her ex ghosted her again, I was on a date with someone whose ex was actually just an ex. I, 27 male, had been with Qley, 26, for a little over 3 years. We lived in Columbus, Ohio, in a rented 2-bedroom townhouse in Westerville. It was a nice, quiet suburb with tree-lined streets and families walking their dogs. I worked as a logistics manager for a mid-sized shipping company near the Rickenbacker Airport. It was a stable job with decent pay, and I liked the routine of it. Qley worked as a dental hygienist at a busy practice downtown. She was smart, funny, and had this energetic personality that originally drew me in when we met at a mutual friend's backyard barbecue in Clintonville. For the first 2 years, our relationship was great. We shared the rent, cooked dinners together, and spent our weekends doing normal things. We would go to the farmer's market, take weekend hikes at Hocking Hills, and watch movies on the couch. We talked about buying a house together once our lease was up, and even looked at listings online. I thought I had found the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with. Then, Tyler came back into the picture. Tyler was Qley's college boyfriend. They had been together for almost 4 years before she and I met. From what Qley had told me early in our relationship, Tyler was a musician who could never hold down a real job. He had moved to Chicago to try and make his band work, which eventually led to their breakup. Qley had been heartbroken back then, but she claimed she was completely over him. One Tuesday evening in October, I came home from work and found Qley sitting at the kitchen island, typing rapidly on her phone. She looked up at me with a nervous smile. "Hey, Logan," she said, setting her phone face down. "I wanted to let you know about something. Tyler is moving back to Columbus." I took off my boots and set my keys on the counter. "Oh, really? I thought he was trying to make things work in Chicago. The band split up, and he couldn't afford his rent there anymore," Qley explained. "He's staying with his parents in Worthington for a bit until he gets on his feet. He reached out to me because he doesn't really have many friends left in the area." "Okay," I said slowly. I didn't want to seem jealous or controlling, so I kept my tone casual. "That's tough for him. Is he doing all right?" "He's pretty depressed," she said. "I told him we could grab coffee sometime to catch up. Just as friends, of course. Is that cool with you?" "Yeah, of course," I replied. "You guys have history, and it's fine to grab coffee." Looking back, that was my first mistake. A week later, Qley went to meet Tyler for coffee at a local shop near campus. She told me she would be home by 6 p.m. so we could make dinner together. At 7:30 p.m., she still wasn't home. I texted her asking if everything was okay. She replied 30 minutes later, saying they had gotten lunch too because Tyler really needed to talk. She finally walked through the door at 9 p.m. She smelled like a dive bar and looked flushed. "We ran into some of his old college friends and grabbed a quick drink," she said, bypassing me to go straight to the bathroom. "Sorry I didn't text sooner. My phone was in my purse." I stood in the kitchen next to the cold stove, feeling a slight twinge of worry. I brushed it off, telling myself I was being paranoid. But over the next 2 months, Tyler slowly began to take over our lives. First, it was the late-night phone calls. Tyler would call Qley at 11 p.m. on a weekday because he was having a panic attack about his future. Qley would slide out of bed, wrap herself in a blanket, and sit on the stairs talking to him in a low, hushed voice for an hour. When I complained that the whispering was keeping me awake, Qley got defensive. "He's in a really dark place, Logan," she snapped. "He doesn't have anyone else to talk to. If I don't answer, I'm worried he might do something stupid. Do you want that on your conscience?" I didn't argue. I didn't want to be the bad guy. Next, it was the physical favors. One Saturday morning, I had planned for us to go to Home Depot, buy some paint, and finally paint our spare bedroom, which we were turning into an office. Just as we were getting into my truck, Qley's phone rang. It was Tyler. He had bought a used couch off Facebook Marketplace and needed someone with a truck to help him move it. "Logan has a truck," Qley told him over the phone, without even looking at me. She hung up and looked at me with pleading eyes. "Can we please help him? He only has a tiny sedan. It will take an hour, tops." I swallowed my annoyance. "Qley, we planned this day weeks ago. Why can't he rent a U-Haul pickup for $20? "Because he's broke," she said, her voice rising. "Why do you have to be so selfish? It's just an hour. We can paint the room tomorrow." I ended up driving to some rundown apartment complex near campus, lifting a heavy, dusty sectional couch down 3 flights of stairs with Tyler, while Qley walked ahead of us carrying the throw pillows. Tyler didn't even offer to buy me a coffee or put $5 of gas in my truck. He just gave me a weak handshake and said, "Thanks, man." The hour-long favor turned into 4 hours because Tyler hadn't pre-measured his doorway, and we had to spend 90 minutes taking the feet off the couch and maneuvering it through a tight hallway. By the time we got home, I was exhausted and dirty. The paint sat unopened in the garage. The real shift happened in December. Tyler had managed to get a job working retail at the Polaris Fashion Place Mall, but his car, an old Honda Civic, started having alternator issues. Qley started waking up at 6 a.m. on her days off to drive him to work. When I asked why he couldn't take the bus or use Uber, Qley accused me of wanting him to lose his job. "He's trying to rebuild his life, Logan," she said. "The least I can do is support him. You have no idea how hard it is for him right now." "What about my support?" I asked, my voice tight. "You haven't made dinner with me in 3 weeks. Every time we have a plan, Tyler needs something. I feel like I'm dating you and him." Qley rolled her eyes. "You are so insecure. He is just a friend. There is absolutely nothing going on between us. You need to grow up." I wanted to believe her. I loved her, and we had built a life together. But the final straw came on our 3rd anniversary, in mid-January. I had made reservations at a high-end steakhouse in downtown Columbus called Hyde Park. It was a big deal for us. The reservation had to be made a month in advance, and I had saved up specifically for this dinner. I bought a new button-down shirt, and Qley looked beautiful in a dark green dress. For the first 30 minutes, things felt like they used to. We laughed, ordered some appetizers, and talked about our upcoming vacation plans. I started to relax, thinking that maybe things were getting back to normal. Then, Qley's phone lit up on the table. It was a call from Tyler. She reached for it immediately. I reached out and gently put my hand over her wrist. "Qley, please," I said quietly. "It's our anniversary. Just this once, let it go to voicemail. You can call him back tomorrow." She looked at her phone, then at me. Her expression hardened. "He wouldn't call me right now unless it was important, Logan." She pulled her arm away, answered the phone, and stood up from the table. "I'll be right back," she whispered, walking toward the lobby. I sat alone at a table for 2, surrounded by couples celebrating and laughing. 10 minutes passed, then 15. The waiter came by and asked if we were ready to order our main courses. I told him we needed a few more minutes. After 25 minutes, Qley finally came back. She didn't sit down. She grabbed her designer purse from the back of her chair. "Logan, I'm so sorry, but I have to go," she said quickly, her face pale. Tyler got into a major fight with his roommate, and the guy kicked him out. He's sitting on the curb with all his bags in the cold. He doesn't have anyone else to call. I stared at her. The noise of the restaurant seemed to fade into a dull hum. I felt a cold, calm sensation wash over me. The anger I had expected to feel wasn't there. It was just a deep, hollow emptiness. "Qley," I said, my voice deadpan. "If you walk out of this restaurant right now, we are done." She gasped, looking at me as if I had just slapped her. "Are you serious? A human being is freezing on the street, and you're giving me an ultimatum over a dinner? How can you be so heartless?" "It's not about the dinner," I said. "It's about the last 3 months. It's about how he always comes first. I am your partner, but I am treated like an option. If you leave tonight, I will not be here when you get back." Qley stood there for a few seconds. I could see the conflict in her eyes, but then her expression turned angry and defiant. "My ex will always be part of my life. Deal with it," she said, her voice sharp and loud enough that the couple at the next table turned to look. I looked up at her. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. "I'm dealing with it," I said. She stared at me for another second, expecting me to back down. When I didn't, she turned on her heel and walked out of the restaurant, the glass doors clicking shut behind her. I sat there for a minute. Then, I waved the waiter over. "I'd like to cancel the entrees," I said. "Just bring me the bill for the appetizers and the drinks, please." I paid the bill, left a generous tip for the waiter who looked like he felt sorry for me, and walked out into the cold January air. As I drove back to our townhouse in Westerville, my mind was incredibly clear. I wasn't crying. I was just done. I had tolerated months of being sidelined, ignored, and gaslit in my own relationship. I had given Qley every opportunity to set healthy boundaries, and she had chosen her ex every single time. When I got home, I didn't sit around and mope. I called my older brother, Marcus, who lived about 15 minutes away in Hilliard. He owned a large Dodge Ram pickup truck and a tandem axle utility trailer. "Hey, Marcus," I said when he answered. "Are you busy?" "Not really, just watching the game." "What's up?" "Qley just walked out on me for her ex again. I'm packing my things and leaving tonight. Can you bring the truck and trailer?" There was a long silence on the line, followed by a heavy sigh. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, little bro." While Marcus was on his way, I went into action. I went to the garage and grabbed a stack of plastic storage bins I had bought for our move. I packed my clothes, my shoes, my electronics, and my personal documents. I took the PlayStation, my desk setup, and the books from the shelves. When Marcus arrived, he didn't ask a lot of questions. He just gave me a firm hug and helped me load the heavy stuff. Since I had paid for the couch, the dining table, and the bedroom set with my own money, we loaded those up too. We left the spare bedroom furniture, which she had paid for, and her personal belongings untouched. Within 2 hours, the townhouse was completely empty of anything that belonged to me. The living room looked hollow, with only Qley's small armchair and her television left behind. I sat down at the kitchen counter and wrote a brief note on a piece of scrap paper. "Qley, I told you I was dealing with it. I have taken my things and moved out. I will contact the landlord tomorrow to have my name removed from the lease. You can keep the security deposit. Consider it my payment for breaking the agreement early. Please do not contact me unless it is strictly about the utilities or the lease. Goodbye, Logan." I left the note next to her coffee maker, took my keys off the hook, and locked the door behind me. Marcus let me crash in his guest room for 2 weeks while I looked for a new place. I found a nice, modern one-bedroom apartment in Grandview Heights, closer to my work and surrounded by local restaurants and coffee shops. It was smaller than the townhouse, but it was mine. There were no remnants of Qley, and more importantly, no shadow of Tyler hanging over my head. The next day after leaving, I called our landlord. I explained the situation honestly. He was a decent guy and agreed to let me sign a lease release form since I was willing to forfeit my half of the security deposit and pay a one-time termination fee of $500. It was a small price to pay for my freedom. Qley tried to call me that first weekend. She called 5 times on Saturday and sent a dozen text messages. "Where are you? Why did you take the couch? You are being so childish, Logan. Come back so we can talk about this. Please answer me." I didn't reply to any of her messages. I blocked her number and her social media accounts. The only communication I allowed was a brief email exchange with the landlord's office, which CC'd her, confirming that I was legally off the lease and had no further financial obligations to the property. Over the next month, I focused entirely on myself. I went to the gym 5 days a week, cooked healthy meals, and caught up with old friends I had neglected during the final months of my relationship. I felt lighter. The constant anxiety and knot in my stomach were gone. I realized how much energy I had spent trying to keep a dying relationship alive. In late February, my buddy Marcus convinced me to join a local running club that met on Thursday evenings in Grandview. I wasn't much of a runner, but I wanted to get out of the house. That was where I met Melissa. Melissa, 28, was a middle school science teacher in the local school district. She had a bright, genuine smile, dark brown hair tied in a ponytail, and an easygoing attitude. We ended up running at a similar pace and chatting the entire time. After the run, the club grabbed drinks at a local brewery, and Melissa and I sat next to each other. We talked about everything. She was incredibly easy to talk to. There was no pretense, no drama, and no games. She was just a normal, stable person who loved her job, her rescue dog, and hiking. As we got to talking about our pasts, she mentioned that she had been single for about a year. "My last relationship ended because we just wanted different things," Melissa said, taking a sip of her cider. "He wanted to move to Denver, and I wanted to stay here near my family. We broke up amicably, wished each other the best, and that was it." "Do you guys still talk?" I asked, a bit hesitantly, my past trauma creeping in. Melissa laughed, a genuine, light-hearted sound. "Oh goodness, no. I mean, we don't hate each other, but he's an ex for a reason. We moved on. I think we follow each other on Instagram, but we haven't spoken in a year. That's how it should be, right?" I felt an immense wave of relief wash over me. "Yeah," I said, smiling genuinely. "That is exactly how it should be." We exchanged numbers that night. A week later, I asked her out on an official date. For our third date, I wanted to take her somewhere nice, but casual. I booked a table at Harvest Pizzeria in Clintonville, a cozy spot with incredible brick oven pizzas and a great atmosphere. Melissa arrived looking beautiful in a simple black sweater and jeans. We ordered a couple of local craft beers and a spicy sausage pizza. The conversation flowed effortlessly. I found myself laughing more than I had in a very long time. I wasn't thinking about Qley, I wasn't thinking about Tyler, and I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. Midway through our dinner, my phone, which was sitting on the table, started to vibrate. I had recently unblocked Qley's number because I had received a final utility bill in the mail that had both our names on it, and I wanted to make sure she paid her half. The screen showed her name. I looked at Melissa. I am so sorry. I need to take this really quickly. It's my ex-girlfriend, and we have one lingering bill to settle. I promise it will take 30 seconds. Melissa smiled warmly. Go ahead, no worries at all. I slid the green bar across the screen and put the phone to my ear. Qley, I told you to only email me about the utilities. Have you paid your half of the electric bill? Instead of an answer about the bill, I heard a loud, shuddering sob on the other end of the line. Logan, Qley wailed, her voice cracking with emotion. Logan, please don't hang up. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I frowned, keeping my voice calm and even. Qley, what is going on? Tyler. He lied to me, she sobbed, sniffles loudly echoing through the speaker. He was using me. He got a new apartment, and he asked me to co-sign the lease because his credit was terrible. I did it because I wanted to help him. And then, as soon as he got the keys, he blocked my number. I went to his place today, and another girl answered the door. She said they've been dating for months. He used my money, he used my car, and now he's completely ghosted me again. He locked me out of the lease, and the landlord says I'm legally responsible if he doesn't pay. I sat there in the warm, dimly lit restaurant, listening to her cry. A few months ago, this would have broken my heart. I would have rushed over to her place, held her, and tried to fix everything. But sitting across from Melissa, who was quietly sipping her beer and giving me an encouraging, patient smile, I felt absolutely nothing for Qley. No anger, no pity, no desire to help. Just indifference. That sounds like a really difficult situation, Qley, I said, my voice completely devoid of emotion. I was so stupid. Logan, she cried louder, her voice echoing in the receiver. You were right about him. You were right about everything. He's a monster. I made the biggest mistake of my life leaving you. Please, can we just talk? Can I come over to your new place? I miss you so much. I want to make things right. I want us to be together again. Please tell me you still love me. I took a deep breath, looked at Melissa, and smiled. Qley, I said, my voice clear and steady. Do you remember what you told me on our anniversary? You said your ex would always be part of your life, and that I had to deal with it. I was wrong, she sobbed. I don't care about him anymore. I swear. Well, I continued. I told you I was dealing with it. And I did. I packed my things, I moved on, and I started a new life. Right now, I am on a date with someone whose ex is actually just an ex. There was a sudden, sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. The crying stopped instantly, replaced by a stunned, heavy silence. You're on a date? She whispered, her voice trembling. Yes, I said, and I'm not going to ruin it. Please pay your half of the electric bill by the end of the week. I will be blocking your number again now. Goodbye, Qley. I hung up the phone before she could say another word. I immediately went into my settings, selected her contact, and clicked block this caller. I set the phone face down on the table. Melissa looked at me, her eyes curious but respectful. Everything okay? Everything is perfect, I said, reaching across the table to gently touch her hand. Now, let's eat this pizza before it gets cold. She smiled, and for the rest of the night, we talked, laughed, and enjoyed our evening. I never heard from Qley again, and I eventually found out through a mutual friend that she had to pay thousands of dollars to get herself off Tyler's lease. As for me, Melissa and I have been together for over a year now. We recently took our first vacation together to the Smoky Mountains. There are no late-night calls, no packing boxes in the middle of the night, and no exes lurking in the background. Just a real, mature relationship built on mutual respect. And that is exactly how it should be.